Hi there, and welcome to today's webinar, Brilliant Business Breakthroughs. I am your lead facilitator and coach of this masterclass. My name's MacDonald, and let me give you just a quick little background of where I come from and why you might want to pay attention to what we're going to talk about in this webinar. I started back in 1989 as a financial advisor with the Mutual of New York, became the Money Group, and then we got acquired by AXA. And I had a nice run there as a producer, as a sales manager, agency manager, and then worked my way into the home office and ended up kind of in a position of working with our advisors and helping them create their business plans to make them more successful. So I've worked with thousands of advisors. I know what works, what doesn't work based upon the different personalities and talents and strengths that each person has. And I want to share that with you so you can kind of crack the code, if you will, in taking your practice to the next level. So one of the things that I like to do before we get started is what I call a brain dump. And I'll explain that here in a moment. If you haven't downloaded your playbook yet, if you go down to the link at the bottom of this screen, it's probrilliance.com/workbook 7. And that'll give you a link to download the PDF of the 11-page workbook that we're going to go through on this webinar. So take a moment, and if you haven't printed it out yet, go ahead and print it out. If you haven't downloaded it, do that. And if for some reason you can't get access to the link, you can't download it, don't worry. Grab yourself some paper and you'll be able to write everything down just fine. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do first is I'm gonna have you guys do what I call a brain dump or a mind dump. And what that is, you know, we all have, as we're here on our webinar, things are growing, things are building and accumulating, our inbox is filling up, our voicemail is getting full, we're remembering stuff we've got to do, we've got a to-do list, it's always growing. So what I want you guys to do is give yourself this next hour just for you, so you can focus on what you need to focus on to take you and your practice to that next level. And in order to really do that, you need to clear out what's in your mind. So just on this sheet in your handout where it says mind dump, just write down that stuff you want to make sure you don't forget once the webinar is over, right? It might be picking up milk on the way home. I don't know. It's probably some emails that you thought of that you got to get back to. It might be a phone call of a prospect or a client that you want to make sure you do before the day's over. Maybe it's calling the home office and shaking out a case. Whatever it is for you, jot it down so that you're sure to do it once we're away from this webinar, and that you can give all of your focus and attention to what we're going to talk about today. All right, so take just a moment and do that for yourself. I'm actually going to do the same thing because I just remembered something I want to make sure I get done after this. Okay. All right, couple more seconds. Whatever that is that you want to make sure you remember after the webinar and can let go of for now, jot that down. You can always come back to this page, okay? All right, so the next page that's in your handout is something I call the flashes of brilliance. This is a great page for you to recreate whenever you're taking a webinar or a masterclass or attending a seminar or at a sales meeting or anything like that, because you're going to hear a lot of good ideas. But the challenge is that we hear these great ideas, we write them in whatever the handouts are, the notebooks that they give us, and then what do we do with that workbook once we get back to the office? Right? It either goes on a shelf or in a drawer, and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And it was a great hour spent, but it never makes its way into our world again. So I've created this sheet called the Flashes of Brilliance. And this is your opportunity so that when you hear a game-changing idea that it's like, you know what, if I did that, that would make a difference, jot it down on the form, okay? It might not be something I necessarily say. It might just be something that you're reminded of that you already knew to do, but kind of forgot to do it. but you want to make sure you do it going forward. Jot it down, right? Write it down. What's the game-changing idea? What's your next best action? Who's going to do what by when? And by when do you want to start working on it? Not necessarily complete it, just get started, right? Because it's all about getting the traction with the action, not just motion. Okay, so that's what I mean by the flashes of brilliance. And then we'll circle back at the end of the webinar and we'll focus in on what are those 2 or 3 things that you must absolutely make sure you do as a result of being on this webinar together. Okay, with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a little story here. It's pretty brief, but it sets the stage for what and how we're going to really be communicating with each other for this next hour. So here's what I want to do is I want to read it to you. I'm just going to go from here. And it says, and by the way, if you want a copy of this, just send me something in the chat and say, hey, send me the flies script and I'll get it to you. This is a good thing maybe to even share with some of your clients. But it goes like this. Imagine you're sitting in a quiet room, a peaceful little place hidden back among the pine trees, about an hour away from the big city. It's just past 1 p.m., late in the month, and you're listening to the desperate sounds of a life or death struggle going on just a few feet away. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life energies in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The whining wings tell the poignant story of the fly's strategy, which is try harder, but it's not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It's impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, the little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through a raw effort and determination. The fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. However, across the room, only 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and the small creature could reach the outside world it seeks. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it could be free of this self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there. It would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach, something dramatically different? How did it get so locked into an idea that this particular route and determined effort offers the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with just more of the same? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly, and regrettably, it's an idea that will kill it. Trying harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise for getting what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success forever. So imagine yourself to always be curious. And I invite you to set your intention on rediscovering what is your 10 seconds of flying time to succeed. Okay, so that kind of sets the stage, right? We want to start to think a little differently than we have up until this moment. Now, in the email that I sent you folks, one of the questions was, what did you come here to get? Right? There's 1 or 2 things that you're hoping that this webinar is going to impart for you to help you make the breakthrough that you want. So what I want you to do is just take a moment and think about, if I could just wave this magic wand and I could get this or get X, what is that that's going to help you take your practice to the next level? And jot that in your chat. Okay, I want to manage my time better. Good. Yeah, so think about managing your time better, making more money. What's that going to avail you to, right? If I have more money, then I could do X, or then I could be X. What's the X? What's it really going to do for you? What's the feeling that you're after, or the experience that you're after? That's what we're really talking about, because that's going to create the leverage for you to make your breakthrough. Okay, step into your full potential, help more clients. Good. Maybe even take it a step further. How will that impact their lives? Right? What did you come here to get? How are you going to affect the world more profoundly? What's that look like? Okay, you guys are getting it. Good, good. All right, so now you've got something, and write that down in your workbook where it says, what did you come here to get? It's also, we call that your big game. What's your big game? Now, I want you to imagine, go to that left box and ask yourself, what's at risk? What's at risk if I don't get this figured out? Right? If it's just more of the same, what's at risk? Okay, jot that in the chat. Okay, I won't have the money I need to send my kids to school. All right. I'll have to continue to work beyond when I really want to work. Okay, so that's not having enough money to be financially independent. Not be the professional I want to be. Okay. Yeah, so you guys get this. So there's a risk if you don't figure this out. Now, here's the thing. I want you to look at what you imagine the risk to be if you get it, right? If you crack the code and you figure out how to make more money or you get more time, what's at risk for you to achieve that? Yeah, now I know what you're saying. You're like, hey, Machan, if I figured that out, man, life would be awesome. And yeah, however, consciously or unconsciously, you're associating a risk, either mentally, emotionally, or physically, to not having it. Otherwise, guess what? That's right. You'd have it by now, but you perceive there to be a risk. So what's the risk, right? You might have to say no to something or someone, either when you get there or along the way. Okay. You might have to give something up. Or, you know, this is really the scary part sometimes is we have to say yes to something, right? Yes to really standing up and being seen, right? Yes to being vulnerable. Maybe yes to getting knocked off the pedestal, right? Maybe yes to possibly losing what we build up, right? Those are all risks, perceived risks. Doesn't mean that they're real, but we perceive them as real. And here's the thing, right? On one hand, there's a risk of not getting what you want and what life's going to be like as a result. And then there's a risk that you're associating to getting what you want and what the result in life might have for you. Okay, so notice those two risks. And if you really look at them and you look at the core of both of them, they're typically the same thing, right? Fear of, right? Not being enough, losing out, right? Missing out, screwing up, being embarrassed, right? They're kind of the same thing. So I want you to notice the paradox, dilemma of what keeps you stuck. Now you can see on the screen here, there's a pair of docs, right? Paradox. What's keeping you stuck is that tension between those two. So just sit in that for a second and feel the weight. Okay, that's what we're going to break through today. All right. Now, one of the things when it comes to making a change is we need to align four things. Okay, and the four things that we need to align are awareness, attitude, action, and accountability. When we get those four things flying in formation in the same direction, we are unstoppable. Okay. First part we're going to cover is awareness, right? So I want you to really look and become aware of what it's costing you currently of not being where you want to be. So look at managing your time effectively on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is you're an absolute rock star. A 1 is you're a train wreck with regards to managing yourself in relation to time. Okay. and jot down a number that you judge yourself to currently be at managing your time. Okay, we got 4s, 5s, okay, 7s, an 8. Okay, good. 7. Okay, very good. So here's the piece, right? You've done a little bit of a mini assessment on yourself with regards to your time management. Now notice whatever the number is for you, let's say that it was a 7, just bump up 2 notches to what a 9 would be in your thinking or your imagination, and notice what it's costing you by not being 2 points higher than you currently are. So if I'm a 7 now and I'm not a 9, there's a cost, right? And it might be something like I'm missing out on time with my kids. I don't have time for date night with my wife because I've got to always work late at night on cases. Might be energy, right? Maybe you're making so many decisions throughout the day that you just have decisional fatigue by the time you get home and you don't want to be bothered with anything, right? Maybe you're not carving out enough time to work out and stay in shape or eat healthy, right? That takes a little work. So notice what it's costing you. That's what I want you to get here is what's the pain associated with where you currently are? Because if there's no pain, right, there's no need to change. So you came to this call, to this webinar because you want to change. We've got to get the leverage for you to change. So this is what we're doing right now. Okay, now notice being better organized. Give yourself a score, 1 to 10. 10, you're extremely organized. No clutter, no disruption. Your environments work for you. You can find things when you need them. All of your equipment is top notch. Okay. Notice how organized you are. Give yourself a score and do the same thing. Whatever your score is, bump it up by 2 points and notice in that gap what it's costing you. Okay. I know before I really got as organized as I wanted to be, when I was less than, you know, I tended to buy things that I already had, right? How many of us do that just because we can't find it? I know I've got it somewhere, can't find it, need it, go buy it, okay? So I was wasting money, you know, in that regards, wasting time trying to look for it. Okay, wasting time and energy beating myself up because I know I had it, but I couldn't find it. Okay, or maybe in my computer, couldn't find a file. I know I created this thing. Where the heck is it? Can't find it. Right? Didn't have the right system to archive and locate. Okay, so notice what the cost is there. Effectively prospecting for your ideal clients. And by ideal clients, I mean your absolute best clients. Right? Those people that you love to be with, they've got great economic potential or capacity to buy what you suggest. There's no pushback on your recommendations. You say you need this, they go, yes, I see why I need it. Let's do it. They refer you to people. They're good centers of influence. You love connecting with them and being with them. Right? Those are the ideal clients. Do you have enough of them? Okay. What's your system and your process for prospecting for them? Okay. Rank yourself. Give yourself a score. Let me see what that is. Okay. Yeah, not very high for most of you. Okay. So let's think about that, right? What's the cost? Bump up just 2 points, right? Like the 3s and the 4s, bump up, you know, what would it look like if you were a 5 or a 6, right? What are the economics involved there? Yeah. Okay, so write down what that is for you. How would life be different if you could bump up just a couple points? Okay, you get the idea. Eliminating what's holding you back mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? If you don't have enough physical energy, what's that costing you? Do you know how to fix that? Mentally, you know, are you beating yourself up all the time? You know, that takes energy. That keeps us down. That oppresses us, right? It's not anybody out there that's oppressing. We're the oppressor of our own self, right? Based upon how we think, right? How you doing there? So notice if you have an area, how good are you at resolving that and moving past it? You know, are you finding ways to get in better shape? Are you finding ways to manage your thinking? Are you finding ways to feel better, more empowered? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1, train wreck, 10, rock star. What is it for you? Okay, and then notice, bump it up 2 points. What's the gap? Jot it down, capture this in your workbook. It's important. Okay. And then finally, having a clear and compelling plan of action, right? Knowing what you need to do, when you need to do it, how you need to do it. Okay, do you know what you're going to do tomorrow? Well, tomorrow's Saturday, okay, for those of you that are on live. But for the next day, the next week, the next month, do you know what you need to get done? Okay, how much of it is new? How much of it is habitual? What needs to get done? And here's what I want you to get, right? I coach thousands, have coached thousands of advisors, right? I see what works. I see what doesn't work based upon everybody's individual talent and capacity, right? What works for one advisor doesn't necessarily work for another. But I know what the universe is with regards to that. And it all boils down to these 5 things, right? Managing our time effectively, being organized, knowing how to onboard ideal clients on a regular basis, eliminating what's holding us back mentally, emotionally, and physically, and then finally having a clear and compelling future, right? Our future has got to be bigger than our past, right? Do you know how to create that for yourself? Okay, so if you can get your numbers up to 8, 9, 10 in these areas, man, that's the best life. That's the ultimate life. That's where we want to get to. Okay, so now as you think about this and you see the gaps, right? Look at the one thing, right? There's one thing that's holding you back from the breakthrough. So notice in the bottom, right? The next question is if I just blank, then I could blank. So what's the one thing, right? For me, personally, I'll tell you, years ago, it was if I could just make my dials every day, right? Make my 10 dials every day, then I know I'd be getting more prospects and more clients and the numbers would take care of themselves, right? I had a coach at the time and I had pretty big call reluctance, right? So we worked on it together and he said, you know, and I was on one of the calls and I was kind of saying the same thing that I'd said on the last however many calls, you know, I just can't get myself to make these calls. There's more to do than I can do. And there's no time. And I had all kinds of excuses. Didn't matter what excuse it was, right? It was the excuse of the day. Bottom line, I wasn't making the dials. And he said, buddy, you know what? Hang up the phone right now. Go make 10 dials, get 10 no's, just go for the no's and call me back. So he's like, no pressure. You know, you don't have to be the rock star. You don't have to say it perfectly. Just go get 10 no's, right? I did that, hung up the phone. I made a couple dials, 10 dials. And I came back and he said, how'd it go? And I said, I got 10 no's. And he said, great. And he was like congratulating me. And I'm like, in my book, you know, that was failing. But you know what happened along those 10 no's? I got 2 yeses. Okay. I got 2 yeses that eventually turned into clients, right? But I never would have got those if I didn't go for the no's. So once I figured out a way to take the pressure off, do what I needed to do, then it was possible. So in my case, it was if I just learned my way to making those 10 dials every day, then I could start to grow my practice by getting more and more and more clients. And it worked. But I also got clear on the leverage, right? If I didn't accomplish that, what was it going to cost me? Well, it might have cost me having to get out of the business completely or really struggling, continually to struggle month after month after month, having more months left at the end of my money, right? So I made a decision at that moment, like I got to get this fixed, right? In my mind, in that moment with my coach who challenged me, it was like, okay, in this moment, I'm deciding, right? The word decide is to kill off, right? Genocide, homicide, decide. Made a decision, right? I'm going to go for the no's, not worry about the yeses. And it all worked out beautifully. So what is it for you? If I just blank, what's the blank? And that would allow you to do what? And what's it costing you, right? So fill that in, get clear, because we're going to come back to this. Okay, we're going to come back to this sheet. Okay, so here's the thing. In order to affect the change that we want, we need to align 4 things. I mentioned this before real briefly: awareness, attitude, action, and accountability. So let's look at awareness first. So whatever that is that you came up with of like, if I could just blank, then I could do what I need to do, or I could experience what I want to experience. Let's look at the universe of whatever that one thing is. So in my case, maybe the case for some of you or most of you, let's like take overcoming call reluctance. Okay. So when it comes to that, there's a universe of all the possibilities, all the answers, all the solutions. Now, if you've been in business for a little bit, you kind of have an idea around what it takes. And if you look at this circle here and you divvy out about 10% of that circle, that's 10% represents what I know around, in this case, overcoming call reluctance. Okay, so write that down. What I know. That's 10%. The next 10%, that other slice of the pie, is what I know I don't know around overcoming call reluctance. Okay, now here's the confusing part. Here's the mind bender. Is what we do day in and day out as humans is we will bat back and forth between that 20% of what we know and what we know we don't know, thinking that if we just, like the fly, try harder, right, that we'll break through. Now, there was a person back in the day when I started in the insurance business. His name was Tom Wolfe. He came up with what they call financial needs analysis as a way to gather facts and develop cases. And he had a saying, and it went like this. It says, when we know and we know, confidence replaces fear, right? When we know and we know, confidence replaces fear. And so what happens is we actually kind of develop this false sense of confidence between those 2 pieces of the pie at the bottom of that circle on your screen. And we bounce back and forth between what we know and what we know we don't know. And there's kind of this false confidence. And we try to keep rearranging it, and we don't get the breakthrough that we want. So what I've done is I've added to that, because I do believe that when we know and we know, confidence replaces fear. And we need confidence to move forward. However, our real power comes in letting go of what we think we know, right? Our real power comes in letting go of what we think we know. And so our real power is in the remaining 80% of that circle. And that's the what I don't know, I don't know. Okay? That's what we're going to explore. And here's the thing. You have it inside of you right now. My job is to help tease it out, help provoke it out so that you can see it, so that you can do something about it. That's the awareness, right? So we need to get some awareness going here, okay? Now, when it comes to having an awareness, I want you to think for a moment, okay? What do you know about what it is you need to overcome? What do you know you maybe need to learn more of, or interact with certain people, right? Jot some of that stuff down for right now. And then just kind of open your mind to being receptive for the remainder of this call, the remainder of the day, the week, the month. Just open a container in you that's open to receiving more information with regards to what is it I don't know that's the solution for me, right? It's like the fly banging against the window. It didn't even know it didn't know, right, about the door behind it, right? It was there. The door was there. That 80% solution was there, but it was so focused over here, okay? It couldn't make itself available to seeing the open door. So sometimes we've got to stop banging, right? And just kind of fly away, chill out a little bit to experience a solution. And that's what I want you to do here. Okay. Now, when we take the awareness, okay, so there's some stuff I don't even know I don't know. It's going to get me where I want to go. As you learn that, whatever that is, we've got to have the right attitude, or the right, for any of you that might have a pilot's license or know something about flying, there's the attitude of the plane, or the approach, or the angle, right? So as a fly banging against that window, certain attitude needs to change its attitude, its angle, right? And do something differently. So the way that we do that is by what I call playing the responsibility game. And the responsibility game goes like this. And for those of you that have a team of people, I want you to pay close attention, because I'm going to challenge you to share this with your team. Okay, so it starts like this. We all have a capacity, right? A level or an ability. And then there's our performance. Okay, to the degree there's a gap from our performance to our ability or a capability, we don't feel too good, right? This is where we shoulda, coulda, woulda on ourselves. I could have done better. I should have done better, because we know we've got a capacity, but our performance was down here. When this gap is closed, we're happy. We're productive. To the degree that gap exists, we're not happy and we're not productive, right? So the game then becomes to just get ourselves closer to our performance, our performance closer to our capacity and ability more often than the gap exists. And here's how we do it. If we look at the slide here, or in your handout, it says responsibility. And under that, in brackets, you probably see it says respond with ability. Okay, this isn't anything I created. I just borrowed it. I've heard it from tons of other people. But think about it. We all have that ability. If we can respond to that ability, we're doing great. We're above the line. But we drop below the line in 3 different ways, right? So the 3 ways that we drop below the line, first one is we rationalize, okay? We justify. We make up a story and try to convince everybody about our story as to why we could not respond with our ability, right? So think about rationalize. If you break the word rationalize in 2, the rational lies that we're telling ourselves, we're telling other people, right? I couldn't get there on time because traffic. Well, the reality is you made a choice before you got in the car, right? To either allow for traffic or wing it, right? Or maybe it wasn't that important to get there on time. You run 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, and you make that okay. Whatever it is, it's still a story that kept you from responding with all of your ability. Okay. So when you catch yourself telling a story, or you catch somebody else telling you a story, right? If one of your teammates or a manager, or maybe even a client, starts to tell you a story as to why they couldn't respond with their ability or keep their agreement to you, challenge them, right? Sounds like you're rationalizing as to why you didn't keep your agreement. Help them get back above the line so that they can respond with all of their ability, right? So the game becomes, let me catch people when they fall below the line so they don't hit the ground, right? It's like if you and I were walking down the street and I trip, I would hope, right, that you might reach out to try to catch me to break my fall, right? And I do the same for you. We want to help, okay? So this is a way of helping mentally and emotionally when we trip, because we all trip, right? We're all falling below the line in one way or another. One way, like I said, is rationalizing. Another way that we tend to drop below the line is we blame other people, right? We make them responsible for how we're feeling about us not responding with all our ability, or making sure that, we didn't have a contingency plan, so to say. But if you look at the word blame and you break it into, what do you get? Be lame, right? Yeah, don't be lame, okay? So the job is to get the job done, do our best. And if we're blaming somebody else as to why we couldn't do our best, we're being lame, right? We've got to overcome that. We got to do our best, find our way to do our best. And I'll talk more about, when we have to count on others, how to affect that. And the third area that we drop below the line starts with an S. Okay, let me hear from a few of you what you think the S stands for. Solution. Okay, good. That's not it though. Okay. Shame. Yeah, it is shame. Okay. And now what I mean by shame, and I actually want to read this to you. I knew I was going to do the webinar today, and I saw this and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to use this. Here's kind of a great definition of shame. It says, it can be easy sometimes to buy into the illusion of our own insignificance, right? It can be easy sometimes to buy into the illusion of our own insignificance. Isn't that awesome? And what shame is when we dig our heels in to hold ourselves in a less than posture, right? In other words, I'm not smart enough. I didn't go to the right school. I wasn't born into the right family. I don't have enough hair, right? Whatever it is, I'm not old enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not young enough. Whatever it is, that's basically saying, you know what? I can't grow or become or learn. I'm just, this pickled piece of cucumber. I can't do anything, right? But we can, right? We can always grow. We can learn. We can expand. For gosh sakes, we live in an ever-expanding universe, right? And we're part of that universe. So we are expanding. We can grow. So when you catch yourself or you catch others falling below the line through awareness, right? Shine the light on it and say, hey, Bob, sounds like you might be blaming so-and-so. If you could respond with your ability or do better, what would that look like? How could you get back above the line? Or when Sally's shaming herself, oh, I'm just not very good at this. Sally, I hear that you think you're not very good at this. However, if you could learn to become better, what would you do in this moment to get there, right? Help people get back above the line. Help yourself get back above the line, right? Whatever it is you came up with to overcome what you felt's holding you back, right? Notice what that is. And where did your brain go? Where did your mind go? Did it automatically go to story, to rationalizations as to why you might not be able to figure this out or get it done? Did it fall onto blame, right? I don't have a team, or there's nobody there to help me, or the people that are on my team, aren't good, or whatever the story is there? Or was it a shame story, right? I've never been able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it going forward. This is just my lot in life. I'm stuck. I'm never going to make the money I really want to make, right? What's your story around holding yourself in that place? And what I want you to notice, these three words, if you circle the first letter in each one of them, right, the red letters here, it's our BS that keeps us from responding with all of our ability, right? It's not our BS that you're thinking of. It's our belief system, right? It's our belief system, the way we've got it wired, that's keeping us where we currently are, right? So that's the awareness piece. The attitude piece is you can respond with all of your ability as long as you stay above the line and catch yourself when you're rationalizing, blaming, or shaming, and get back above the line quicker than you normally would. Oftentimes we never get above the line because we're not aware of when we're down below. So you got a tool now, got a tool for you, a tool to share with your team to get yourselves to perform for more of your ability, right? Close the gap. Every time somebody falls a little below the line, help them close the gap, close the gap. We do that throughout the day, just 10% more than we've been doing it. Man, exponentially, that's going to make a huge difference. Okay, so that's the attitude piece. Now, let's look at the action piece. In your handout, you've got this 4-box quadrant. And what I want you to recognize, whoops, I moved a little too fast here. What I want you to recognize that in the upper right quadrant is the outcome, the results, right? It's your bank account. It's your business success. It's your success in your relationships and in your health, right? That's what's going on in your world, right? The outside physical reality. Well, I'm here to tell you that that only came about as a result of you taking action, right? Behaving a certain way. And then that came about based upon the way that you feel, right? You either felt inspired to go do things and get things done, or you were expired, right? And hid and didn't get stuff done. Okay. And that could be the result. But all of that led to, or came from, your thoughts, your ideas, and your beliefs, right? And that's the imagined reality, right? Up here's the physical reality, the outcome. Down here is the imagined reality. And it all starts in here, right? In the bottom right quadrant, starts with our thinking. And so this is what I call an outcome generator. We all have one, all right? There's a current outcome generator, and then there's a desired outcome generator. For a nickname, I call it the GYM, G-Y-M. In other words, guide your mind. So what we have to do is all starts with our thinking, okay? That bottom left quadrant. Are we thinking the right thoughts that are going to lead to how we feel so that we can feel empowered to get done, to do what we need to do to get the results that we want? Now, it's kind of the soup or the water that we're swimming in. That's why I have the fish there. Okay. And it's like the fish that's swimming in the pond. It doesn't even recognize or know what it's swimming in, right? It's just swimming, doing its thing. But once it gets flipped up on the riverbank, okay, and now it recognizes, oh, that's what I've been swimming in. Okay. What are you swimming in? Right? And a lot of what we're swimming in is the rationalizations, the blame, and the shame of the RBS game, right? And we're repeating it over and over and over and over till it becomes our way. So we've got to really work at untangling the wiring there, okay? So let me just kind of bring this to life for a second. I want you to imagine an advisor who, if we look in the bottom bottom right quadrant, and they're having thoughts like, my call, and this is with regards to making phone calls, my call, it's just an interruption. They're probably already set. They're busy. I don't really know exactly what I'm going to say. Yeah, I'm probably just going to get a no anyway, so why bother, right? And that leads to a feeling, right? And as you can see here, the feeling is apprehensive, and it actually should read unresourceful, not resourceful, right? It's unresourceful. I'm feeling kind of, Now, if I'm feeling that, I've got that stuff going on in my head, even if I could get myself to pick up the phone and make the call, what's going to happen, right? I'm going to stumble. I might be forgetful, kind of check in and out and be too worried about what I'm saying or what I'm not saying, feel awkward, or I totally avoid making the call altogether, right? And what's that all lead to? No appointment, right? So the bottom right quadrant of stinking thinking, as Zig Ziglar calls it, leads to the results we fear. Okay. So who controls our thoughts? We do, right? So we've got to become aware of what we're thinking that's holding us back, and then start to take some action around it. And so what's some of that action look like? Well, some of that action looks like reprogramming or rethinking how we're doing it. So now I want you to imagine, right, the new thinking. If my thoughts were, I help people solve problems. I'm good at what I do. Each day I learn more and more, right? I can help people. I can figure this stuff out. I can work with them. The job is really just about making relationships and doing a good job. And, if I do a good enough job for enough people, they're going to want to work with me and I'll be just fine, right? If we have that as our mindset, I'm going to feel pretty good. I'm not going to feel encumbered with a bunch of BS, right? I'm going to be eager to help. I'm going to feel excited to pick up the call, because it's like, if you knew you had the cure for cancer, right, and you're calling a bunch of people that have cancer, you'd pick that phone up all day long, and then it's on them as to whether or not they want the cure. It's not on you. You've got the cure, right? You're a licensed professional to sell the insurance, or you've got your securities license. You can help people invest, right? You're the person that's got the solution. Pick up the phone. They want your help. Not everybody, right? Not everybody has cancer. Not everybody needs the solution. They might be all set for sure with their advisor, right? There's good advisors out there. And we hope our clients think we're good advisors too, right? So we don't want them jumping ship at every cold call that comes their way. But the reality of it is there's plenty of people that are looking for you. You just need to go look for them and get the no's before you get the yeses, right? So we do that. We're going to make plenty of focused and relaxed calls. And guess what? That's going to lead to the appointments that we want. Okay, so see how it works? So we're either in a spiral, a downward spiral going around the drain, or an upward spiral going to where we want to get to. Okay, you decide which direction, all through the choice of your thought. Okay, so that's the action piece. The action, right, which is the upper left quadrant, making the calls, seeing the people, asking for referrals, learning more about investment, whatever it is, learning more about products and solutions, whatever it is, the action that you need to take back into what do I need to think or believe is true about myself, about my products, about my clients, about my prospects, about the markets, and jot that down and write it down in a way that's going to be compelling for you so that you can feel excited to then take the action that you need to take, you need to take to get the results that you want, right? That's how it all works together. Okay. So take the time, not right now, but during, some downtime, and you can use this 4-box quadrant really as your planning sheet, right? And in the plan here, it says, I have a blank outcome generator, or I can create a blank outcome generator. I have a current outcome generator. What we all do, you did before you came to this call, because whatever the results are you're getting is what you're generating via your thoughts. But you can create a desired outcome generator, right? So what is it that you desire, right? You want more time, you want more money, more clients, whatever it is, another house. You want more of something or you want less of something. We all do, right? So what is it that you want more of? For each item that you want more of, back into, right? If I want, $100,000 more in first year commissions, okay, what do I need to do? What's the action, right? That goes in the upper left quadrant. It might be more than one thing, right? Need to make calls, need to, get another designation, need to hire an assistant, whatever it is for you, you need to do something. But then notice, how do I need to feel in order to execute that? And then what do I need to believe is true about myself, about the world around me, in order to feel that so that I can thereby do it? Now, what I want to also point out to you is between the two left quadrants, right? Let me back up for a second here. Okay, between the action and behaviors quadrant and the feelings and emotions quadrant. This isn't written in your handout, so I want you to just write a little loop between those two, because there's something that goes on. Because sometimes we don't feel like making a call, but we know we've got to make the call. And so we've got to override our feelings sometimes, right? That's just part of life. I know you know that. What we want to do, though, is we want to start to delegate that to our habits, right? And so we want to start to develop the habit over and over and over. Like, none of us, probably are really excited about brushing our teeth every morning, but we've developed the habit to do it. We just do it, right? It's not like we're, hey, I'm inspired to brush my teeth. It's like, okay, I got to brush my teeth. I can think of a gazillion other things that I'd rather do, but I've built the habit, right? So sometimes we have to override that feelings and actions arrow and create a little cycle in between the two, just to build the habit. Because once it's a habit, we don't think about it anymore, and it doesn't matter how we feel, we just do it. And there's a great saying, you probably have heard it, by Albert Ian Gray, and it goes something like this: successful people make it a habit of doing the things unsuccessful people aren't willing to do, right? Successful people make it a habit of doing the things unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. So my trick here, okay, didn't say they make it a habit of enjoying the things. It's just that they're willing to do. Make it a habit of what you got to do. So that's where you build your little habit loop in there. By the way, if you want a good program, it's real cheap. It's like $49. Go to magnetichabbits.com, and it's a 21-day video series, real quick and easy every day, to help you build the habits that you need or break down the habits that are holding you back. So it's a really cool little system. All right. Another great resource is a book that's not too old. It's recently released called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Great book, right? But you've got to become a master of building your habits and dismantling your habits that aren't working for you. Okay. If you get good at that and tie that into this whole gym, the Guide Your Mind, man, you are going to be unstoppable. I guarantee it. All right. So let's move this forward. We know what we want to start achieving here. Now, there's 5 things that you need to affect for accountability, right? We first had awareness, then there's attitude, then there's action, then there's accountability. So here's the accountability piece. Just like the fly, you need to choose the proper path, okay, to get to the open door. The path here that we make up with an acronym is people, actions, thoughts, habits, and systems. Now, let me explain this to you. In your handout, you've got a page, got flies on it, right? The word flies, F-L-Y-S, which means I like to just remind myself that it means fearlessly letting yourself succeed, right? Fearlessly, right? How would life be, man, if you could just carve out the fear and just do, right? Do what you know you need to do, right? So part of this is limiting or eliminating the fears, right? And there's a way to do that. And we do that through these paths. So here's the thing. When it comes to people, right? People either contribute to your success or they contaminate your success. People on your team, family, compliance, wholesalers, underwriters, right? All these people are affecting in some way, shape, or form your success. If they're doing a good job and they're doing good things, they're contributing to your success. But if they're dropping the ball, if they're always pushing back, if they're, toxic, that's contaminating your success. So in your handout, I want you to look at and list the people in your life, both personally and professionally, that are contaminating your success. They're holding you back. They're expiring you rather than inspiring you. Okay, who are those people? And you've got to find a way to limit your exposure to them, maybe even eliminate the exposure to them. Maybe it's time to call it in a relationship or call it in a partnership, right? Time to move on. Right? We've seen what works and what doesn't work, and it's time to move on. So I want you to write down the names of the people, if any, right, that you need to limit and eliminate. And then you're going to have to develop a plan around how to create that departure, right? For some of us, it may be pretty significant. Others, it may just be sending a note and terminating a contract and going and finding the right person. Or vendor or supplier. The next column over, there's probably somebody you need to add in to your ongoing experience to make your life easier, to make yourself more productive, to inspire you, to help you perform at your best, right? So it might be a center of influence. It might be, an estate planning attorney. It might be a coach, right? It might be an accountability buddy, right? It could be whatever it is, but what do you want to add in? And maybe a name comes to mind, right? You see that person in your mind, write that person down Maybe it's somebody you don't know yet, but you know of, right? Write that person down. And if it's not a specific person, you don't have a specific name, but it's a type of person, like I said, maybe it's an estate planning attorney, or, somebody that can help you with advanced underwriting, right? Whatever that role is, write the role down, and then your work is to find out who that could fulfill that role. Okay. So that's part of the paths are people, right? We've got to get the right people in our universe here. The next part is actions. Okay. There are actions that you take every day, every week, every month, or actions that you're not taking that you know you need to, right? So notice, what do you need to stop, right? Limit or eliminate when it comes to actions that you're doing. And what actions do you need to start taking, right? Maybe, think about it. If one of your things is, I need more energy, I got to start working out and eating more healthy, and you're not a member of a gym, maybe that one action, right? You don't have to do it over and over and over, but maybe one action is join the gym or buy a pair of running shoes. Okay. Whatever it is, write it down. Now, some things you need to add in, some things you need to take out. So cover both those columns. And by the way, I know I'm moving fast. You've got the handout. You can come back and do some work further or deeper on this. The next is, what thoughts do you have, right? We just spent a little chunk of time on how our thoughts drive how we feel, drive our ability to get things done, get us our results. So what thoughts are you having, maybe even on a regular basis, that are keeping you stuck or keeping you from making the progress that you want? Write those down. And I'm going to show you a mechanism of how to start to limit those. But awareness first, right? Awareness is the first piece. Be aware of what your thoughts are that are holding you back. Okay. And then notice, what are some thoughts that maybe you don't have, but you'd like to have? What would you like to believe is true about you? What would you like to believe is true about the market? What would you like to believe is true about your future in your business? Right? Jot that down. Okay. Get it out of here onto here so you can see it. Get it in your plan so you can review it. Okay. Habits. Habits are a big one, right? Notice your habits that are contaminating your success. And they're habits with regards to doing, being, or thinking in the areas of our health, our relationships, and our finances, right? If you don't have enough money saved up, it's not because you don't make enough money. It's because you don't have the habits of saving and investing the money, okay? Or budgeting. If your relationships are kind of haywire, certain habits you're not bringing into the relationship, or that you are bringing into the relationship, right? If you're exhausted at the end of the day and you come home and now you don't have much capacity left, and you're going like this with the people that you really love, but because you're short and they're short, and it creates some drama and some toxicity, right? You need to affect that. So what are your habits? What are the habits you need? Are you telling the person that you chose to spend the rest of your life with, how valuable they are and how much you love them, how important they are, right? Catch them doing stuff right. Okay. And vice versa. Ask for what you need in a relationship. All too often, people never ask for what they need. They don't get their needs met and they blame it on the other person. Guess what? It's not the other person's responsibility for you to get your needs met. It's yours. So ask for what you need in a relationship. If it's with an underwriter, ask for what you need. If it's with a higher payout from your company, ask for what you need. If it's with a client and you want them to do what you know is right for them because you don't want to face them or their family, if something happens to them, ask for what you need. Okay. It's your responsibility for you to ask for what you need. Okay. Make that a habit. Okay. Moving on. Systems. Okay. Remember, what does systems stand for? Save yourself time, energy, and money. So here's how we back into systems, right? Look at your day-to-day operation and notice, where is the waste? Okay, I'm wasting time doing this. I'm wasting money doing that. I'm wasting energy with this, right? Oftentimes a waste of energy is when we're inside our own head, when we're making up a story and we're worrying, or we're, you know, feeling and believing we're not enough. You know, when we're making ourselves wrong, when we're shaming ourselves, that's all a huge energy drain and we don't even realize it, right? How many of us have gone through our day and at the end of the day, we're exhausted and we look back at what we got accomplished and maybe we didn't accomplish much, but we're still exhausted. Why? We were in our heads spinning, right? Stop the spinning. So notice where the waste is. If you're spinning, you need tools and resources to limit or eliminate the spinning. Okay. Notice where else you might be wasting time, money, and energy. If you can't find those things like we mentioned earlier, right? Have a system for finding things. I use something called Evernote, right? It's kind of like my external brain, but it's anytime I place something somewhere or I store something somewhere, I take a picture of it where it's stored, because sometimes I just forget, right? Like, where did I, especially like season to season to season, right? Summer to winter, we do different things. I buy something for, the boat. Well, where did I put it? I know it's in the garage somewhere, but where is it? So, if it's wherever it needs to be, I take a picture of it. I can find it. I don't have to go buy another one, right? When I know I bought one, it's brand new, it's packaged somewhere, but I can't find it. Oh, it's in bin number 4. Okay, great. Have a system. Okay, save yourself time, energy, and money. So think of it this way. These 5 elements, people, actions, thoughts, habits, and systems, we can affect those, right? We can constantly be upgrading all of those to enable us to activate our willpower. And when we can activate our willpower, man, we can get things done. But if we're so busy fighting these paths, right? Fighting with the people, okay? Doing the wrong actions, have the wrong habits, no systems or lack of systems or wrong systems. Man, all of that is a drag that's pulling us away from being able to activate our willpower, right? But once you get those things in alignment and serving you and contributing to you, life gets so much easier, right? That's what I do with my clients, is I help them affect their world, get all these things race ready so that they can then just bring forth their strengths, their talents, their uniqueness in a way that's received in a way that they're compensated extremely well. Okay, so this is your opportunity to set some accountability in for yourself, but start with the paths. Okay, now let's bring this back to the awareness. Okay, and like we started, what's the cost at managing your time effectively? What's the cost not being as organized as you want to be? What's the cost of not having your ideal clients? The cost of not being able to eliminate what holds you back? The cost of not having a clear and compelling plan going forward? Okay, so you're clear, I hope, right? I know it might be a bit disturbing. We're kind of going to that side of the messy, scary place, right? It's like Joseph Campbell said, it's the treasure you seek is in that deep, dark cave. Okay. We got to get a little dark here just so you can see that, by working through this darkness, you're going to find the gold that you want, right? So look at this form in your handout, right? This one here, and whatever you wrote down, notice how committed you are to actually solving this. Notice how committed you are to actually solving this, to get to the other side, to get that gold out, right? Go in that dark, deep, scary, swampy, stinky cave to get the gold that you want, right? So that it doesn't have to cost you. And I want you to write or circle one of these numbers, 0 to 10. Okay, 0 is it's not a big enough deal to worry about. Life's great. You know, a couple tolerations here and there, no big deal. Okay, that's a 0. But if it's like a 10, like, you know, I'm absolutely committed to this. You know, my life depends on it. My family's life depends on it, the quality, that's a 10, right? If you're willing to absolutely do something about it, it's a 10. Or somewhere in between, whatever it is for you. I want you to circle what that is for you, right? You've got to have this awareness, because here's the thing: if you're not committed to doing anything about it, get off your own back, right? It's like, why are you even on this webinar if you're not willing to do something to affect the life that you want? But if you're here and you're willing to do what it takes, then it's a 10. Okay. So whatever that number is, circle it. Okay, let me see just in the chat what some of the numbers are for you. Okay. 9s, a couple 8s, a 6. Okay, 2 10s. I feel you. Good. All right, good. So what I'm getting from this is that you've got a sense of what you want for yourself, a willingness. Okay. Now, here's what I know to be true. I've worked with enough advisors and even people outside of our industry. I coach a lot of people outside the industry as well. Here's what I know. Top achievers activate their full potential, and they do it in this way, right? We're going back to our 4-box quadrant. First is they understand how they're wired, right? And if they understand how they're wired to succeed, they also understand where they're wired to trip, right? What their weaknesses are. And so that they can, through the paths, right? The people, the actions, the thoughts, the habits, so that they can build some systems to avoid those potential points of failure, right? Because let's face it, you know, I'm 5'7", I'm in my 50s. I'm not going to be the starting forward for the Sacramento Kings anytime soon, okay? No matter how committed I am, it's just not going to happen, right? And if I went down that path, I'm pretty much destined to failure. So I'm not going to waste my time on that path, right? But how many of us are going down the wrong path? Okay. So we've got to recognize that, avoid that path. Doesn't mean we can't get to where we want to go. It's just the wrong path. So we've got to develop the right path. And when we understand how we're wired, because we are, as humans, we are evaluation creatures, right? We're these meaning-making machines and meat suits. Everything that comes into our existence, we evaluate, meaning we say, well, what is it? What does it mean to me? What am I supposed to do with it based on our values? Okay. So we're always evaluating. But if we don't know the 6 different dimensions through which we are evaluating, we don't know how to make decisions. We don't know how to get ourselves to do the things we know we need to do, but can't get ourselves to do. Okay. So we've got to understand, right? Top achievers understand their wiring, and they wire it up so that it works for them. When that's working for them, they feel more clear, confident, and certain. And think about it. When you're confident, when you're clear where you're headed and you're certain, that you trust in yourself, you have high self-efficacy. In other words, you know you can count on yourself to do what needs to be done to succeed. Man, when we feel that, we walk through walls, right? That's the upper left quadrant. They perform better business building actions based on how they're naturally wired. Everybody's wired differently, right? Some of us can find our way to overcoming and making the cold calls. Others of us can't. So don't try to get really good at not being good at making cold calls. Find a different way of getting in front of people. There's a gazillion different ways. Okay. But it comes back to knowing how you're wired. And if you know how you're wired and you can get to feel more confident so that you can activate your capacity and perform with your ability more often than not, you're going to get the results that you want, right? You experience more success with less struggle, right? So that's where you want to get to. And that infinity loop in the middle just lets you know that this is an ongoing process of conditioning, right? You don't just go through it once. You don't go to the gym once and work out and say, I got this, I'm in shape, right? You don't eat a healthy salad once and say, okay, I got that done. Now I can eat all the crap I want. It's an ongoing process, and it's a conditioning process. One of my favorites, Zig Ziglar, he used to say, we all need a checkup from the neck up to avoid stinking thinking, which leads to hardening of the attitudes. Okay. So every day we need to do this checkup in here and in here, get them to line up so that we're in our integrity, so that we can optimize ourselves and do our best. But we've got to know what doing our best looks like and have a plan and notice how we can affect our habits to activate all that through our thinking, right? So that's where it's so important to begin with understanding how you're wired. So here's an opportunity for you. If this works for you, great. If not, not a problem. So I want you to look back at your sheet that you wrote down, whether you're a 0 or a 10 with regards to being committed to getting what you need. And if you're like a 7 or above, I want you to pay attention to this. If you're, below that, this might not make sense to you. But I've got a tool, it's called the MindScan Success Assessment, that I offer to my clients to take, and it helps them understand how they're wired. Now, it's not going to label you in any way. It's not like a DISC or a Colby. Those are great. We use those too with our clients. But this particular assessment measures how you evaluate yourself and the world around you. And once we understand that, then we can start to create a process to help you lead with your strengths, manage your weaknesses, and avoid those potential points of failure, right? So it eliminates all the drag that you might be experiencing and trying to get to where you want to get to. So all of a sudden, once you understand this and you start to put your paths in place, it's all of a sudden, it's like you've been running in molasses, and then all of a sudden the molasses just goes away and you can just go like you can't even believe. The next part that I have for you is helping you feel motivated and on purpose, right? Once you understand how you're wired and we create this paths to helping you get to where you want to get to, you're going to feel and see how you can get to where you want to get to. You're going to feel inspired. And by doing that, you'll take the action that's necessary. And what I'm going to offer you is 2 sessions with me where we can isolate one area, one bottleneck that you want to break through. Okay, and we'll build a path for you together and then send you on your way, and you'll do what you got to do. You'll come back and we'll look at what worked and what didn't work, calibrate it, and get you back out there, right? So you get 2 focused breakthrough calls with me personally, okay? Not with one of the other coaches, but with me personally, where we're going to isolate what you need to break through with and how to do it. Okay. And I guarantee you, it's not going to be a sales pitch or an upsell to anything. This is where we're just going to strictly focus on you. And we're going to base it on the MindScan Success Assessment, right? You'll get that information, and then we're going to use that in integrating that with the paths to give you a tool, an action plan for you to hit the ground running to get to where you want to get to. Now, in my coaching, I charge $350, sometimes more, per hour when I'm working with people, right? So there's a value here. But if you do the assessment, if you sit with me for 2 sessions, get this all figured out, you're going to have a breakthrough like you've never imagined. And that's the priceless part, right? That's that upper quadrant that I want for you. Now, when we value this, it values at $12.49, right? You can see, the time with me, the assessment, the debrief, all of that, $12.49 value. But what we sell this for typically is $7.49. And today, on today's call, I want to scholarship you guys. So I'm willing to reward the people that take action. This will always be around for $7.49. It's not going anywhere. Okay. But if you want to get a $500 scholarship from me, so that this only costs you out of pocket $249, right? A one-time charge of $249. You get the assessment. You get 2 individual hour coaching sessions with me to get your breakthrough. If that's of interest to you, okay, for the next 24 hours, all you need to do is go to my site, probrilliance.com/FPG, and use the code FPGnow.com. FPGnow.com. So when you're at the shopping cart, it's going to say $749. You put in the code FPG now and you'll see $500 reduced, and you check out at only $249. You get 2 coaching sessions with me, plus an assessment that is priceless because you'll know how you're wired, finally, right? Nothing wrong with you. You're just wired a certain way that you're not aware of. Once you're aware of it, it's like, oh, here's what I need to do and how I need to do it. And that feels right. But how often are we trying to do what we know works for other people, but doesn't feel right for us? Okay. This is the most liberating thing you're ever going to experience for $249. So that's my offer for you. Like I say, if you're a 7, 8, 9, or 10, you circled that. What I want you to do, if you're really committed, is at the bottom of this page again, right? This one here. You'll see at the bottom it says Y, TIO, or N. Okay. If you want to take advantage of this, circle the Y. That's your commitment to you. Okay. If it's a, no, it's a no for me. I'm okay with a no. I want you to be okay with a no. Just circle the N and you get back your life that you have before you came onto this call. That's fine. If it's a TIO, that's a think it over, right? If you want to think this over, 249 and I get this, and, should I? If you got to think it over, do yourself a favor and X out the TIO and just circle the N because it's a no, right? If you can't see the value right now, you're not going to see it going forward. And I'm okay with a no. I want you to be okay with a no, right? But I want to work with the people that have that fire in their belly, that want to take it to the next level, get clear with their thinking so that they can align it with their heart and their energy and start to do what they know they need to do in the way that's right for them so they can make a bigger impact in the world that they're living in. So if that's you, I can't wait to work with you. Again, probrilliance.com/FPG. Okay. Or if you got your phone, you can click on the QR code in the middle of your screen. And when you get to the checkout, just put FPG now, and that'll take $500 right off the top. Okay. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. There's a saying that Ralph Waldo Emerson has, and it's one of my favorites. And he says, finish every day and be done with it. You've done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. For tomorrow is a new day, and you shall begin it serenely and with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense, right? The only reason our life is not where we want it is because we're dragging our nonsense with us. It makes no sense, right? So let go of it and start to see your future. Start to find ways to really believe in yourself and your capacity so that you perform where you need to. Develop the habits to get you across the threshold of the things you don't enjoy necessarily doing, but still may need to be done to have the success that you want. I'm here to help you. I want to help you. I've helped thousands. Okay, let's make this happen. Again, probrilliance.com/FPG. Use the code FPG now to get your savings. Thanks for being on the show. I wish you ever expanding successes. I hope we get to connect. And if we don't, I still wish you all the best. Take care for now.